Alexandra Nyamoyaboyi, back for the third part of African Tech Roundup with Henry Mascot, CEO of Curacell. Part 1. Henry gave insights on the current state of Africa's insurance market and reasons for low penetration and inclusion. Part 2. It was about the business opportunity of the Insuretech sector. But before we dive into this, let me remind you that UNAJUA is about offering minimal actionable responses in about 50 minutes or less, and it's also where we offer you the opportunity to earn some African Tech Roundup tokens as a thank you for listening. In this part 3, Henry answers the two questions. What are the most successful insurtech startup plays happening on the continent? And how are insurtech startups looking to either partner with incumbents or disrupt them? But before we hear from Henry, let's do this. For a chance to earn some African Tech Roundup token, here's the question you need to answer. What is a company that has been around for about 2 decades in the insurance sector with a social impact purpose? Stay listening to the end of the episode for the answer. Then, fill out the Google form linked in the show notes with your name, email address, Silo address, and the correct answer to today's question. If you don't already have a social token wallet and Silo address, get with the program by signing up at wallet.socialstack.co. Henry will be answering the question, how is technology improving insurance penetration in Africa? He will factor in on the size of the insurtech business opportunity in Africa and also talk about how incumbent insurers are attempting to use technology to address low levels of insurance adoption on the continent.
Technology companies and the whole are still pretty early on the continent, so success is still a very relative term right now. You should define success as like exits and like acquisitions. The whole technology ecosystem in the continent, especially across sub-Saharan Africa, is still less than 10 years, so somewhere around 5 to 6 years old. So it's still pretty early to start to look at if you value success as exits and M&As and all those sort of things, then it's still pretty early to judge. You can see companies who are starting, obviously still early, but are starting to play a key role in some of those places that I've mentioned across different markets, right? So that different players across different markets and different industries. So when you think about service and administration, which is like end-to-end systems across insurance companies, you see different players playing in different markets as well. So obviously, before now, a lot of the technologies were being imported into the continent. So some of the very first insurance companies started deploying technology. Most of the technologies were not homegrown. They were actually purchased from either the States or from India or somewhere in Europe. But you start to have like a very early successes across like different lines of insurance. So on the, obviously, Curacell on the claims and fraud management side for health and auto, and the Nigerian side, just cutting across Africa, we're still pretty much the first guys positioned around that. But you can see a lot of other infrastructure companies coming into different sites. In South Africa, you can hear companies like Roots, Pineapple. In Kenya, you start to see a few companies, there's Lamy, there's Tureco. In Nigeria as well, like I said, you can see Curacell, and then there's a few other guys that are coming up. I think guys like Cassava trying to provide employment insurance, Reliance Health, innovating on that health side of things. So still pretty early. Most of these companies are still pretty early. Most of them are still at like seed stage as well. But again, it also varies across multiple markets. From a social impact side, some of them, most of these companies that started out, looking at it not just purely from a commercial standpoint, from a social standpoint. Companies like MicroInsure, I think right now it's called the Microinsurance Company, has been around for a decade to 2 decades, but they've been very focused and also, at least it started out from a social impact angle, got a lot of funding from the big funders, and I think sometime at the stage became quite commercial focused and all that too. So you can start, if you look at it from a impact side, you can see a lot of guys that started out on the impact side, taking a lot of funding from the impact investors But again, obviously down the line, found it harder to scale commercially and like converted. The incumbents, the startups being in the space can be divided into, infrastructure companies providing technology to incumbents. And then you can also see a few of the new insurers that are trying to, provide insurance to the population, direct to consumer, by leveraging on technology. People like Curacell and like Lamy and like Roots and all these guys would be more of infrastructure as a service or technology as a service. And then you can, have people like, Reliance, Balloon Africa in French speaking Africa, Pineapple. This would be people who are new insurers or insurance companies leveraging on technology to do better distribution, better operations, and so on and so forth. Yeah, like I said, continuing from the last question, right? So obviously you have two types of Insuretechs, the ones who are enabling incumbents and then the ones who are trying to disrupt incumbents as well. They all have their parts to play. You need both types of companies to be able to do or drive the industry or grow penetration. Obviously, the incumbents they all have their pros and cons, right? The incumbents already have market share, so if you enable them, you're faster to, right from if you're able to sign them, you have massive reach and massive distribution for your products by signing them. And obviously, because incumbents are also older, slower, again, they might not be easy to partner with, and then figuring out that skill. So there are pros and cons of that. Companies like Curacell, obviously our strategy is to be able to, provide or build infrastructure that enables all the stakeholders work better. Obviously starting out by enabling incumbents be better at like operations, and then from that we going to other things as well. So the strategy is so for different companies is different. They all have their pros and cons. For us, obviously our approach is to partner with incumbents, because we believe that, they understand the market, they understand the challenges in the market, we understand technology, so we can kind of like partner and do what we do. And everybody brings what they're best at to the table. We bring technology, we bring the ability to innovate, ability to deploy quickly, and then they bring their deep understanding of the market, bring their big client bases, and then we can partner and do interesting things in the market. And then you also have, like I said, people who believe that incumbents are slow, and that they can disrupt them and get market share faster as well. Like I said, there are different sides of insurance and different value chains of insurance. Some of them, incumbents would always win and keep winning in some of those places. And in some of them, it's easier for disruptors to be able to come in and move quickly, right? There's been some detailed analyses globally in terms of in different aspects of insurance, like breaking it down and then trying to determine who stands a higher chance of being successful, whether it's the incumbents being enabled by Insuretechs or the disruptors as well. And when I think about this thing, I think they all have their parts to play, and depending on for every founder, every company, depending on what strategy is best aligned with your personality and your strengths, execute. So if I also build a little bit on this as well, would be that there are certain products that is easier to sell and it's easier to get started by new insurers or MGAs, which is basically people who can build products and distribute quickly. So they are easier. They're products that is easy. They're solutions. So I would say that solutions that aren't very easy for incumbents to adapt to, right? So for instance, companies like Pineapple starting out by doing P2P insurance or community-based insurance. So stuff like this is so new and innovative that maybe a regular insurance company is not built to operate like this. So it's easier for a company to start from the scratch and be designed to be like this. So we're seeing some innovation on especially direct consumer innovations that, are models that are very different. So we've also seen a lot of micro insurance products that are first of all started by, because we're starting to see adoption by the incumbents, but most of them were started by like smaller companies or Insuretechs, and then easily copied by the insurance company. So it would be the products where it requires the ability to move very quickly. Then, it's great for, and be very innovative. Then it's great for startups to come in and move quickly in that aspect. But products that require massive distribution, then it's easier to just partner with incumbents. And then, like I said, there are different types of partnerships. There's enabling incumbents. There's distributing a product you create with incumbents, just providing them with the ability to, is that create a product, you have an expertise in terms of how to distribute, and then there's finally you just trying to do it from the scratch by yourself. So there are different models, and I'm seeing in the market, slightly successful, but still pretty early to tell.
Here's the answer to this week's Proof of Play question. For a chance to earn some African Tech Roundup token, here's a question you need to answer. What is a company that has been around for about 2 decades in the insurance sector with a social impact purpose? Microinsurance company. Go ahead and fill out the Google form linked in the show notes with your name, email address, silo address, and the correct answer to today's question. Again, if you don't already have a social token wallet and silo address, get with the program by signing up at wallet.socialstack.co. Hey community, you can give us your feedback on what you thought of the conversations, interviews by reaching out to us on social media or by leaving a wonderful 60-second voice note that could be featured in the future. Until next time.